Hey guys, this is Gabrielle Boucher, and here is one of your extra bonus surprise videos that we're providing to you just for being a part of our Employee Retention Bootcamp. Now, we've already been talking about everything from engaging, motivating, retaining your great talent. And one of the big ways to do that is to understand how each generation wants to be led. Now, you know us as a generation, guys, the ones who are analyzing how generations can work better together and frankly serve generations, whether they're your clients or your customers, or of course the employees on your payroll. It's all so important. So today I'm going to break down to you the different ways that generations lead and the different ways that generations want to be led. So let's go over it. There are four big generations in the workplace today. Many of you are familiar with them. We've got the baby boomers, we've got the millennials, we've got Generation X, and we've got Generation Z that's coming up pretty fast as well. They're just about 18 years old, getting ready to get into the marketplace, into the workplace, and in your backyard. So it's important to know how they want to be engaged. So with all of these generations, how in the world do they interact with one another? How do you optimize them? How do you lead them? How do you manage them? And how do you train them for management? It's really important because every person on your team wants to become a leader. They want to become an influencer in some sort of way. That doesn't mean that they necessarily want to become the boss or the manager, but it's important to realize that every single person wants to become a better version of themselves. And when you realize that leadership starts with leading yourself first before you can lead other people, it's incredibly important. So let's jump into it. Baby boomers. Baby boomers are born between 1946 and 1964. They are one of the first youthful generation. They were really that generation that said, things are going to be different when we're in charge. They had this phrase, don't trust anybody over the age of 30. And so because of that, we've actually seen that this is a generation that's very centered on age and experience equaling authority. You see that particularly with older generations, but with the baby boomers, what's unique is that they're very process oriented. You maybe have heard me say it. Boomers like the A, the B, and then the C, and they don't skip B, right? Because they invented B. B was a part of the process that they created. And so because of that, we see in the leadership aspect that baby boomers are looking to create processes and leadership structures that are very top down. Now, that doesn't mean that they necessarily want to tell you what to do with every part of your day, but we certainly see that baby boomers want to create a system where individuals have very clear lines of responsibility, that role relationship, so to speak, that structure that we see with many large organizations. Many of it has been led, invented, and improved upon by the baby boomer population. And so because of that, we see on the leadership front that baby boomers tend to want to create that kind of top-down decision-making model. The second group, Generation X, is born between 1965 and 1981. It's a smaller generation, but they're also too known as the latchkey kids because they're oftentimes the kids with the keys around their neck, and they came home from school and figured out how to go to college or how to apply for college or how to make dinner. And so because of that, they're extremely independent. And so Generation X really tends to lead from the side. They're very independent, very entrepreneurial. If you're Generation X and you want something done right, you're probably just gonna do it yourself because you know that you're scrappy, you know that you can get it done right, and you can get it done on time. So it's a really decentralized way of making decisions, but it's extremely independent. So when it comes to working on teams, Generation X loves working on teams, but they need, again, to have that clear line of responsibility, which makes them a really great partner for baby boomers who like to create the system and have everybody kind of figure it out on their own, which makes sense why baby boomers and Generation X tend to work well together. Enter the millennial generation. Millennials are born between 1982 and the year 2000. Largest generation ever, so much curriculum, so much drama and talk around who millennials are, but it's important for you to realize how millennials lead and how they want to be led. This is a generation that was raised to work on teams and to work with one another, and so because of that, they're extremely collaborative. So we see with the millennial generation is that they tend to lead from the middle. They're very democratic when it comes to decision-making processes. They don't necessarily need clear lines of responsibility if they have open lines of communication. So maybe someone's responsibility to do one aspect of the project one week and maybe someone else's responsibility the next week. And they're okay with that sort of fluidity because they really believe access to leadership is just as important as the leadership role itself. Now, what about Generation Z? The big question. Gen Z is born after 2001. They're still being born. The generation will probably wrap up around 2020. Now, this generation has been raised with technology really so available that they have an expectation that things will be not only given to them in a way that's technologically appropriate, but also too that things will be given to them in a way that they'll be able to personalize. So Gen Z is going to be very similar to Gen X, so don't worry Gen Xers, there are some folks who are going to be like you here in the future. Very independent problem solvers where they're going to want to come together to solve a problem based off of what they've individually done. But they're also too going to have some of that kind of creativity and drive that we see with other youthful generations like the millennials. Now, leadership is something that's so important. As soon as you bring people onto your team, whether they have been in the workforce for 5 years or for 50 years, providing an opportunity for them to increase their personal and their corporate leadership is so important. Again, not everyone wants to become the boss with the title in the office, but everyone should be trained to be a leader of themselves first and of others second. So that was it for your free bonus. Make sure to keep following along as we give you more access, more information, more tools and strategies to make sure that you attract, retain, engage every generation in the workplace.